News.com. I'm Seth Lawrence with this expanded local newscast streaming to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin insurance agent in Clinton. Animal shelters across the country are dealing with an influx of animals coming to them, and the DeWitt County Board is trying to do something for the staff of the animal shelter in DeWitt County. County Board Chair Dan Matthews indicates the board approved expanding the fencing of the animal shelter to give more space for dogs to be outside.
Yeah, Seth, as you and I have talked about, recently, we've seen an uptick in the amount of animals that have come to the shelter, abandoned animals. But, the majority of the animals we get there are aggressive male dogs. So we need some options for Holly and Sage to be able to get those dogs out of the building, outside, in the runs, and not putting, aggressive dogs together. So we want to add some additional runs so that we can maintain the one that we have. It's the main run that we have now is grass. Of course, it gets beaten up pretty good in the summertime with the weather fluctuations. So this is going to allow the staff out there to get more dogs out, to get more exercise, and to be able to do more cleaning and keep them safe and keep the animals in the best condition that they can.
The board also approved modifications to the pens inside the shelter to keep staff from having to handle aggressive dogs.
One other thing we're doing is, I don't know if I think you've probably been to the shelter, the indoor facility. Each individual pen stands on its own. We're putting some guillotine doors in between pens so that, again, Holly and Sage, our staff out there, can move some of these aggressive dogs from one pen to the other and not have to handle them so much or have to really move them in some of the building structure that's not real safe for them. So we're just going to keep making it safe for them and keep anticipating that our numbers are going to be high. Just, keep improving the facility, as much as we can.
The influx of animals at the shelter is going to impact the budget for next year. Matthews explains they need to budget for the increase in medicine used.
Really, it wasn't. We weren't seeing near the number of animals. We're seeing 2 to 3 times the amount of dogs and a lot of cats as well. So we're going to have to, we're getting ready to do budgeting. It's hard to believe we're doing that again already, but it starts here pretty quick in August. We are going to have to budget more dollars for the facility, medicine to properly medicate and take care of the animals that we bring in. That's obviously grown a lot with the number of animals. So luckily we have some contingency funds that we can use for things like this. Some of the donations that we do get some really nice donations from the public. And so we've got our expenses gone up. We're going to have to budget more dollars to, properly take care of the animals.
Matthews also points out the board approved an agreement with the University of Illinois for veterinary care for 5 years. A Central Illinois law enforcement administrator was recently able to spend a week in the nation's capital for a special training through the FBI. Piatt County Sheriff Mark Vogelzang on the WHOW Morning Show Monday told regional radio the training was full of great information on the importance of sleep, prioritizing mental wellness, and information about leadership.
It was a great event. The FBI started a course that's called their National Command Course, a week-long course where they bring in chiefs and sheriffs from across the country. So we had roughly about 53 different chiefs and sheriffs in there. It was a week-long class where they had different people come in covering topics from sleep, which is obviously very important for police officers and deputies, given the fact that they work different shifts. Leadership, wellness, physical fitness, stress, suicide, communications, video evidence. So it was a great week that the FBI completely paid for. There was no expense to the county or myself personally. So it was a really good time and was able to learn a lot from different speakers.
The sleep portion of the conference stood out the most to Sheriff Vogelzang because oftentimes deputies may struggle to sleep well because of things like stress or the odd hours of work.
Anyone that's worked shift work understands how difficult it is to get good sleep. but one of the doctors that was there was a renowned sleep doctor. He'd been on Fox News multiple times and really talked about if you can't get that 8 hours of sleep from 10 o'clock at night till 6 in the morning, when your body really needs that sleep at night, how to maybe adjust to get that good quality sleep so your body can recover. The big thing would be not watching TV as it gets closer to night, limit your alcohol use, wearing sleep masks, keeping the room nice and dark, things such as that. So trying to bring some of that stuff back to our deputies here so that they can stay healthy and fit for duty.
Because of the nature of the job, countless officers and deputies across the country see some of the worst scenes in our community. Sheriff Vogelzang indicates this conference helped reinforce what a great resource Piatt County has in the Piatt County Mental Health Center.
Oh, absolutely. With this job, it's hard to not see critical incidents, and that's what we respond to more often than not. So just trying to find ways outside of work to relax, not bringing it home to your family. Having those hobbies outside of work are also so important. And then, being able to have services available to your staff so that they can reach out and get help if needed is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Piatt County Mental Health is a phenomenal organization that has helped in the past, but then there's also a lot of different resources, not necessarily local, but 800 numbers that are available to our staff. But there are some other organizations that are really focused on first responders in this area that we have numbers posted for our staff if should they need to reach out.
Sheriff Vogelzang says a friend within the FBI was able to get him into this opportunity in Washington, D.C. He reminds the FBI paid for everything and no expense came from local taxpayers. With how dry this summer is turning out to be, Department of Natural Resources officials are growing concerned with the ground fires they see pop up at Clinton Lake. DNR Conservation Police Captain John Williamson indicates before it looked like the drought and dryness of central Illinois was going to ease at the start of July, but things are getting dry again, and he says there are too many ground fires popping up at Clinton Lake.
A common theme that we have, fishermen want to go out there, they're fishing at night, they want to it could be just people that are just visiting the lake and want to go down near the lake and have a campfire, that sort of thing. And we just can't have that. If you have a campfire at Clinton Lake, you've got to have it in a controlled device. So there's some pits down there, fire pits around near some of the pavilion areas. There's little grills that you can have fires in. Those are the only places that you're allowed to have it. But we're seeing more and more around, like the rocks around the riprap. Somebody making just fires on the ground, even if there's no riprap or anything. And we're just really worried that with the dry weather, as it gets drier, we're going to start a big fire that's going to be a real problem. So the rules are that you have to have it in a device to have a fire at the lake.
Captain Williamson says it doesn't take much to dry the ground out after some heavy rains from 3 or 4 weeks ago. Last week's 90-degree day with plenty of wind most likely dried things out quite a bit.
Yeah, it was so brown and so dry and everything that, any rain like that helped. And as far as, I think national weather runs off of the crop fields because it's just dirt, We're there for the lake, the grass, the leaves, all that stuff's going to hang in the leaves better than most places, that sort of thing. So it helped a lot, but it's getting that dry again. It's getting, those leaves are drying out. The grass is drying out again. And we stand the chance of having a real bad problem. We don't want to have that. 90 degrees and wind in the high teens, gusts up to 30, everything dries out. So it doesn't matter, that one day like that and the top, all the leaves are dried out in the woods. So then it could go. So it just takes a day. It could have rained the day before and that wind and heat and everything would have made it to where it had been.
Captain Williamson indicates after the June 29th derecho, they did close down the campsites of Clinton Lake for 2 or 3 days because there was no power. However, he says they were spared a lot of damage from that storm. There was a slight improvement in the Illinois corn and soybeans this past week. It was a hot week. Temperatures were about 5 degrees above normal this past week. Crop statistician Mark Schleusner takes a look at corn.
The Illinois corn crop was silking on 95% of acres as of Sunday. That compares to 90% 1 year ago and 88% for the 5-year average. 35% of corn acres have reached the dough stage compared to 38% normally.
He takes a look at soybeans.
Soybeans were blooming on 89% of acres compared to 76 normally. 59% of acres were setting pods compared to 46 normally. Soybean conditions also improved and were rated 20% very poor to poor, 34 fair, and 46% good to excellent.
Get news anytime at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Hi, this is Connie at Love It Once More Thrift Store in Clinton, where we're having a back-to-school sale